Response briefing, health leaders say nearly 55% of those 65 and older have received at least one COVID vaccine dose. Dr. Anthony Fauci says there are 3 effective vaccines, including the latest from Johnson & Johnson, which requires just one dose. He urged Americans not to wait on any of them.
If you go in and a vaccine is available to you, I would take the first available vaccine.
Health officials also urging Americans to keep wearing masks and social distance until more people can be vaccinated. Johns Hopkins tracking showing 8.5% of Americans have been fully vaccinated. Senate lawmakers going through the process of amendments for President Biden's COVID rescue bill. Senator Bernie Sanders is making another push to include an increase in the federal minimum wage. Sanders criticizing the Senate parliamentarians' power to leave it out.
It is an absurd process that we allow an unelected staffer, somebody who works for the Senate, not elected by anybody, to make a decision as to whether 30 million Americans get a pay raise or not.
Last month, employers added 379,000 jobs to the payrolls. Those are encouraging signs. Health experts say that the economy is recovering as more businesses open. Hospitality and leisure sectors seeing a big increase. Today in New York City, movie theaters are reopening for the first time since the lockdowns went into effect last year. Pope Francis making an historic visit to Iraq, the first pope to visit the country. He arrived in Baghdad. Security, though, is not the only concern.
A lot of people have been against this trip, partly because of the pandemic. That is, the numbers are picking up, certainly down in the south in Baghdad, less so up here in the north.
ABC's Ian Pannell reporting. You're listening to ABC News.
Do you check your Google search results regularly? You should. People often get their first impression of you or your business online. Negative comments on the internet can impact your life and your livelihood. Take control of your online reputation. Get your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com. It may reveal negative posts from an ex-employee, upset patient or client, news article, legal issue, or even exposed personal information right there in your Google search results. Uncover what's lurking on the internet about you with reputationdefender.com's patented scan and get your free reputation report card. Or for immediate assistance with your reputation, call 800-401-6681. Our cutting-edge technology helps make your Google search results look their best. Call 800-401-6681. That's 800-401-6681. 800-401-6681. Or take the free scan at reputationdefender.com.
More details about a Dallas police officer, 12 years on the force, now charged with 2 counts of capital murder.
Brian Reiser stands accused in 2017 of hiring a longtime friend to kidnap and kill 2 people, a 30-year-old woman and a 60-year-old man, for $9,500. The woman's body was dumped in the Trinity River. The man's was never found. Reiser has been a suspect since 2019, but was kept on the force to keep from tipping him off. The new Dallas Police Chief, Eddie Garcia, says,
"There's not a police chief in America that can look you in the eye and tell you that there aren't officers in the organizations that have no business wearing this uniform."
Reiser is held on $5 million bond. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
A big basketball game on Sunday, out of bounds to the public, but officials worry fans will be flocking to clubs and bars in the host city. Details from ABC's Steve Osinsami.
In Atlanta, the city's mayor is asking people not to come to town for the NBA All-Star Game this weekend. She and others point out that across the U.S., Georgia has the 6th highest number of reported COVID cases in the last 7 days and the 5th highest number of deaths. On top of all that, Georgia ranks dead last in the number of shots in arms for every 100,000 people.
The New York Times and Wall Street Journal reporting top aides to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo altered a public report back in July, pushing state health department officials to undercount the actual number of nursing home patients who died from coronavirus. This is ABC News.
I absolutely love my dog, but the constant shedding, not so much. But then I got a Swiffer Sweeper Pet Kit, and it is amazing. These super thick cloths pick up a crazy amount of hair. Just look at all that. And that was from just one swipe. And the best part? Sweeper's so much easier to maneuver than a broom or a vacuum, easily getting around chairs and under the couch. You're right. Now I can focus on you, not your shedding. Swiffer Sweeper Pet Kit, because shed happens.
Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
This Snow Country Ski Report is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring? Start finding the right people right away. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Another good ski weekend coming up, nice and dry, temperatures in the 50s in the mountains. So we start out the day with firm, groomed snow, and then that snow softens as the temperatures rise at Bear Mountain and Snow Summit. Two of them combining for 55 trails. A lift ticket gets you to either area. They're sold out for Saturday, but night sessions available starting at 3 o'clock. Tickets available for Sunday at Bear Mountain and Snow Summit. Mountain High skiing and riding on a couple dozen trails. They'll have nice soft landings in the terrain parks, especially during the warmest part of the day. And Snow Valley is on 17 trails. They have nighttime sessions on Fridays and Saturdays at Snow Valley, so everyone nearby has night skiing. Mammoth Mountain skiing and riding on 154 trails. Machine groomed snow. They groom 85 of those slopes, including 30 groomed black diamonds at Mammoth. I'm Chuck Devine on KMET 1490 AM.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Good morning, America and France and England and Europe and wherever it is that you are listening to Julie Talks Money. I am your host, Julie Phelan, and I welcome you to my show every Friday from 10 o'clock Pacific Time, live on KMET 1490 AM. I am delighted to bring you information about money and things that you may not know that you don't know. Always looking for different ways to help you make more money, grow your money, keep your money, and protect your money so that you actually will have some financial literacy as well as financial assets in the bank throughout your life. Now, we all have different things at different ages that we are needing to know about money. You don't need to know too much about money when you're a kid, right? Unless maybe you get an allowance and your parents are using that to help you learn about money. Something that I really, really highly encourage. As you get to be a teenager and you're dating and doing other things, you have different needs for money, and maybe you're looking for a part-time or a full-time job. And of course, you go to college, and then after college, and then when you start forming a household and life maybe with somebody else, and then you start getting into buying property, buying a house, having children, thinking about retirement, accelerating in your career, moving up. Each of those different things have different stages in your life and different things that you need to know about money or that will come up in your financial life that you need to learn about. So I hope to provide a forum and a place with my guests that I bring in and experts to help you with that educational process that is one of those things that's lifelong learning for everyone. And, you know, we are, if nothing else, learners, aren't we? One of the things that I have found so interesting throughout my life is that when we get out of school, that doesn't mean we're done learning. And as a matter of fact, so often our hunger for information and for more learning increases the more that we are out of school or the longer we're out of school. And that's a great thing because it keeps our minds active, it keeps us challenged, keeps us occupied with figuring out new things, maybe kind of taking on challenges that we wouldn't have before. Corporations understand this, and they always have different kinds of educational programs. And I'm talking about trainings. I'm talking about seminars. I'm talking about even if you go to a weekend morale building or team building exercise, or we'll go back to that when coronavirus is over and COVID. But those kinds of things are constant, and you will only get ahead if your company offers them and you utilize those things. So I salute us all for being lifelong learners, and during this time, during the pandemic and staying at home, we have all probably taken the time to learn a lot more than we had before, than we knew before, whether it would be a new way to start a business or a side hustle, or any number of different things, from webinars, from Zoom meetings with people, just from doing our own research on different topics. If that is one of the things that brought you here to me and to Julie Talks Money, again, I thank you. I am here weekly. You can also find me on YouTube. I've got a website, Julie Talks Money. You can find me on Instagram, Julie_Phelan. On Twitter, same thing, Julie_Phelan. And on Facebook, I'll be doing a TikTok channel here pretty soon, looking to do that. And of course, you can always subscribe to my newsletter. I go into the website. Anyway, one of the things that I like to do is kind of give us a perspective on life and on birthdays. I'm not going to do that today, but one of the things that I would like you to consider doing is looking at movies that have been favorite movies of yours. and among them, perhaps, Forrest Gump, which won Best Picture, but if you can believe it, it won Best Picture in the 90s. You know, I don't know about you, but this decade, this century so far, since 2000, has gone by really quickly, especially the last 10 years. But when it's really true that when you get older, it seems like time goes much faster. I don't know why that is, but when we look back, whether it's with hindsight or just with nostalgia or looking back, just remembering high school days, remembering college, and you start putting a number on it and how many years it's been, then it is one thing, I don't know about you, but it constantly blows my mind how long ago something was when I thought that it happened maybe only 10 or 15 years ago. And again, you know, the movie Forrest Gump is one example. And I mention this partly because Coming to America, #2, premiered today on Prime Video on Amazon, and that is a sequel to Coming to America with Eddie Murphy, and that also, believe it or not, is over 30 years old. I mean, it's just amazing, or 25 years old, I think, probably. It's been that long since they made the original, which was very popular, and now we have the sequel, and yet, as I was speaking to somebody just moments ago, it seems like it's an old friend that you're revisiting, and the same things and the same people are there. It's kind of what we do when we go back to a high school reunion, or when we go back to our hometown, if you have moved away from your hometown, or see people that we haven't seen in a while. It's really kind of interesting to me, and I hope to you also, you know, that you kind of are able to look at time and the marching of time in a different way, and we do that by looking back. We've also heard the term that hindsight is 20/20, and that is pretty true. That means that you would have done something differently 20 years ago had you known then what you know now. You could look back and say, oh, well, I would have done this differently, or that was a mistake, or maybe I would have changed this part of my life when I came to a fork in the road and I didn't. It's much easier to have that clear vision when we're looking backwards than it is forwards. But the thing is that you need to look forward and you need to have a plan for yourself and how you're going to get through the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in your financial life. And that includes your family life, and that includes adding to your store of knowledge and what it is that you want to accomplish. So I mentioned this before, and I mentioned it several times. One of the things that I challenge you to do when you are setting goals, when you are looking at what you want to do, think of yourself 20 years in the future and look backward at what you want to have accomplished. Pretend that you are 20 years in the future, or at an age 20 years older than you are now. What is it that you want to have accomplished by the time you are at the age that you're pretending to be? What do you want to be able to say you did? What is it that you were able to acquire or accumulate in the way of assets? And here's one big one. What do you think you might have lived through? Now, we have a whole lot of people who are on YouTube that are young, between 20 and 30, and they are talking a lot about the stock market. They're talking a lot about the raging bulls that we've had and all the ways that they're making money. They're making tons and tons of money. Bitcoin, of course, is a new thing. But that, both with the housing market and with the stock market, for people that age, pretty much they have never known a downturn. Everything has been going up in their entire life. Ever since the 2007 crash, or the 2008 correction, if we want to call it that, in the housing market, which now is almost 13 years ago, if you can believe that, 14 if you're counting 2021, all we have seen is rising prices since then. Pretty much in the stock market, it's the same thing. Rising prices, rising values, rising valuations for companies like Uber, who don't even show a profit yet, and yet they're valued at billions of dollars. It's a crazy phenomenon. We can talk about that. And yet, when you talk about a correction that might be coming, you'll have so many different opinions, almost as many opinions as the people you ask. And it could be 50-50. But I want to caution you, just when you are looking at the people who are talking on Facebook or on YouTube about what they see as happening and how you can make several $100,000 more or $1 million more if you just follow their advice in the stock market, Be like a hedge fund. And a hedge fund means that they hedge their bets. They may bet that markets are going to go up. They may bet that housing prices are going to go up, but they hedge their bets by having alternative strategies in their portfolio and in their investing. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. And if you're not sure how, well, hopefully you will learn from me and from listening to the show and checking things out on the website and my blog, which is soon to come, or even some of the things on my tidbits, as I add those on YouTube as well. Tax Tip Tuesdays, Win-Win Wednesdays, Money Mondays, Financial Fridays. And I'm building more of those up so you can get information in bite-sized chunks. Here's something that's really kind of interesting. Facebook has put this out. Actually, it's a discussion that's been on Facebook. There's a high school in Utah that does a reality check every year. They give students a random annual income, and then they visit tables for different budgeting items like housing, insurance, etc. This is one of the very first ways that people learn how to handle money and learn how to budget and find out what it is that they need to know that they don't know when they are younger, when they're in school. So in your initial budgeting, I really highly recommend that you learn how to do this. And again, I have a little bit of a course on that, and I have some course materials on that. You can also check it out. There's all kinds of different programs on budgeting online. Do that. But the very first thing to do whenever you're talking money is if you don't know where your money is going, then you don't know where and how you can save it. So you need to actually break things down into all your expenses. What is your housing expense? What is your insurance expense? That could be your housing insurance, or that can be your car insurance. It could be renter's insurance. There's all kinds of different things that you have to protect yourself. What is your cost for your utilities? How much does it cost you for gas, for electricity? What about for gasoline? And I'm going to talk a little bit more in the second half of the show about credits that you can get for different kinds of fuel. What about your commuting expense? What about, and here's a big one, your food expense? Food and entertainment is a huge expense, and we're talking both groceries as well as dining out. Now, I don't know about you, how many of you may have found that you have saved some money by being in the lockdown, if you want to call it that, in the pandemic, where we have not been able to go out to eat as much as we probably have in the past. That's a pleasure for a lot of people. And, prices have gone up. A lot of restaurants have had problems with their keeping the doors open because there hasn't been enough business. But it's one of those kinds of things that is something that's actually put money back into our pockets. That's what I want to say. It's basically put money back into our pockets without us being aware of it, because we have not been able to go spend that money. Now, of course, it depends on what state and what country you live in, but if you haven't been able to go out to eat very much because of the pandemic, and you are not doing so much DoorDash or Grubhub or having food delivered, you're cooking more at home, I'll bet you anything that you're saving money. So what are you doing with that extra savings? What you should be doing, and you can be doing if you have a budget, you know that you have this extra that's in your accounts and in your household account, assuming you're still working or getting some kind of employment assistance, and you are able to put that aside into an emergency fund. Everybody should have an emergency fund, and if nothing else, the disasters in Texas with the snowstorms and the ice and the water bursting and the fires in California, and of course the pandemic, have taught us that we need to be more prepared for any kind of disaster, unforeseen circumstance. So I will always encourage you to have an emergency fund that would, normally I'd say 3 months, but now I'd say 6 months of your expenses. So I hope you're finding different ways from your household budget that you can put that money into an emergency fund. And that's a bank account that you don't touch for toys, you don't touch it for dining out, you don't touch it for entertainment. That is specifically and solely to be your emergency fund. Well, one of the things I'm going to be talking about today, too, is that there are disaster loans and other things for disasters available to us through government agencies. And the Small Business Administration is one of them. They actually offer home and personal property loans. If you're in a declared disaster area and you're the victim of a disaster, you might be eligible for financial assistance from the SBA, even if you don't own a business. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Now we think of the SBA as a small business administration, only helping small businesses, but they are a government resource that is out there and available to help us in lots of different circumstances. So if you are in a declared disaster area and you're a victim of disaster, like again, the frozen pipes and the bursting and the no water in Texas, no heat, electricity, trying to put things back together, or if you were a victim of the California wildfire, Mountain View Fire it was called. There's all kinds of different things in every state, and you can check that out on the SBA website. You might be eligible for financial assistance. Now, if you have a business or an organization that's located in a disaster area that incurred damage during the disaster, same kind of thing, Texas, California, Louisiana, Alabama, tornadoes, hurricanes, frozen pipes, that could be in the Midwest all the way up to Wisconsin and Minnesota too. You can apply for a loan to help replace or restore your damaged property and get that from the SBA. If you are also in a declared disaster area and have suffered economic injury, regardless of physical damage, and that just means that, in simple terms, you have lost income or your business has been impacted because of COVID or because of the storms or whatever it might be, without having any physical damage to your property, but you had damage or you've had loss of employees because they couldn't come to work, or you have had other business losses because people just weren't availing themselves of your services, like restaurants, then you could also qualify for a loan. Then there's another one for military reservists, and that is kind of for both employers and reservists. You might be able to get a loan from the SBA for those things. So I'm going to encourage you to check those out. And there's also a guest that I'm about to bring in who's very involved with the SBA, and she herself is a small business owner. She's a commercial real estate agent with Keller Williams, but she's just not the kind of person that you think about when you think of commercial real estate. Yes, she will buy and sell for you, represent you in multifamily properties, and she can also help you with industrial buildings, but she has a little bit different niches, and we'll talk about that. Plus, like I said, she has a lot of experience with the Small Business Administration and how it's helped her in many ways. So I'm going to welcome Gladys Bustos back to the show. She's been on before, and we're going to be having a really interesting conversation. Hi, Gladys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
Thank you for having me again. I really appreciate that. My background, again, is in lending. I did small business administration loans from 1994 to present date. And so I also benefited from my knowledge and decided to participate in some of the classes and seminars that the SBA provides to people who want to be a business owner. And initially I did it to go and find business to bring to the bank. But I found that a lot of the seminars were very important and relevant for business owners to have success. And
are you talking
that way,
about programs that the bank put on or that the SBA put on? And this is when you were employed by banks, right? For that?
Yes. Yeah, when I was employed by the bank, I would go to the SBA seminars. They were in person. You'd register, and then depending on the topic, or sometimes they would ask me to come and speak about different things that I did under SBA loans. And the SBA has classes on maybe how to start your business plan and what you need to do and what kind of insurance you need. All the important things to make you successful. And you and I pay that through our taxes at the federal level. So if you're not taking advantage of these resources that are basically, you are paying for them indirectly, but they're there and available for you to benefit. So you just go to the SBA.gov website and sign up for the area in where you live. Each SBA has a district office, and then you're a part of that cluster. And whenever they have classes, you can sign up, register, And due to COVID, people are participating via Zoom or some sort of class that way. They have classes also on how to go through the procurement route, and that's by registering yourself as either a minority business owner, a veteran, a disadvantaged business. And that alone is a great opportunity on how to do business either with the federal government, with the ports, with the airports, with the Department of Agriculture, with the different avenues, Caltrans, if you're a contractor. There's so many opportunities, and maybe you're not the big player, but sometimes when a bigger player decides to take on a contract, there will be a provision in the contract that he has to or she has to lift a few small business owners who can fulfill the responsibility and the obligation and have their things in order, that they too can benefit and be a part of a contract. And then if
now, you mentioned procurement. What exactly, explain to the audience who's listening, what is procurement? What do you mean by procurement?
That's where you can do business with different agencies, whether it's
government agencies?
Yeah, a government agency, a city, the state, with Caltrans. Sometimes there's an emergency need, and it may not be so transparent how to go about getting that contract. And somebody like myself who knows how to navigate the system, because I've been at this for a while, it takes a little work. Sometimes there's emergency contracts that can be passed down to somebody who can fulfill it. I secured a contract for somebody with LAX, and they were going to get 2 contracts, large ones, and the client elected to pass on the contracts for whatever reason. But I did that through my designation as a minority woman-owned business, and I was able to
how did you get that designation to help you procure contracts from government agencies?
By participating in the SBA, I went and met with a small business development center, and I also met with a PTAC, and they made sure that I had my EIN number, my entity formed, I had my DUNS number, that my things were in order, and then I was put on a portal to kind of identify what my specialties were. And then even though you may know your specialty, when you deal with the government, there are within a section, a subsection category for you to really pinpoint what is the little niche you're really in. So when there are contracts available, that you get an alert that that contract is available and that you're a potential bidder for a contract. And that's invaluable to have. I get alerts sometimes daily or weekly, depending on where I've registered myself. And sometimes there's seminars that the port will have, the Port of Los Angeles, the Port of Long Beach, and the city all collaborate and are having a seminar just on that alone. And if you want, you participate via Zoom, and then they help define your categories and then seeing what other opportunities there that may exist, whether it's in supporting your growth, how to fulfill the contract, and also if you're not elected for a contract, why you didn't get elected for the contract, which is very important. So the next time there's a contract, that you don't commit the same error that you did the first time. And I think that's very important, that there's these great opportunities. if you're willing to reach out and you're willing to invest the time. And anything that involves the government is a little cumbersome, and it's not a perfect science. So you too, you have to kind of navigate and be friendly to being frustrated sometimes by the system. But once you understand how things work, it's amazing. Sometimes if there's a contract out there, it'll tell you who the last person or last company who was awarded the contract, and it'll even tell you who the other people who may be bidding on the contract. So you may know some of the players, or you may not. But if you go to an event where you are a bidder, all of a sudden there's a room of people that you can network with. And I myself would go sometimes not only as a business owner, but if somebody in the room was awarded a contract, I would offer them SBA financing to help secure the contract. So they're not strapped for cash, or if they need a bigger facility, that I can help them move very quickly in a 30 to 45-day time frame to get them into a bigger building or adding more space or leasing more space to fulfill the contract. So we want to make sure that they're successful.
So there's a lot of different opportunities available. You know, when I was, I've done a lot of stuff as a lender, as you know, and that is both conventional and for businesses and hard money and for business people. And I would go, and I knew that there were people that were SBA representatives at banks. And I always thought that that was only for businesses and business people that were large established businesses, such as it could be restaurants or it could be a retail business or something. So I was very surprised to find out that there are these opportunities and bits of information and trainings available for small business owners or independent business owners too.
Sometimes if you're a business, you may want to consider looking at what is an opportunity zone, what is an enterprise zone, what is a hub zone, what are the different zones, and what funds or contracts are available to you if you go into a disadvantaged area. So you
tell us about those zones and what they are, please.
The opportunity zone is probably the one that most of us know the most or hear more about. Sometimes there's opportunity zones for housing, for contracts or low or affordable housing. But there's also contracts for, depending on your business, that the city would give you maybe a right, or you'd be among bidders who are also in the opportunity zone to try to secure a contract in different things that are available. But you would have to check with each particular city or county or state to figure out, are you in that zone? And then is your product or service a need? And then that you would get priority because you're in that type of zone and you've elected to take on additional risk. There may be some incentives for employment. And one thing a lot of people don't know is that when you hire a veteran, the veteran is very much supported by EDD and by the state of California. And EDD does have a program where they train veterans and put them back to work. And if you elect to hire a veteran, the incentive to you through the state of California, through EDD, is that during their training, only their training, the state kicks in money to you as the business owner. Sometimes veterans have a negative stigma because they came out of the military, and you're worried what are they going to do since they went and served somewhere. There's some really good incentives for you to take on a veteran and give them their first, they're supposed to get first dibs on jobs, but sometimes they're overlooked, and I'm not really sure why everybody has a perception of what veterans are and are not. But if I were you and you're a business owner, it would behoove you to look into the state and see how you support a veteran. And that way, their ramp-up period to join your organization is supported by the state. It's very, very important in all aspects. And there is monitoring, obviously, just like when I do SBA loans or you do a residential or you do any kind of loan, there is some sort of tracking, right? How many African Americans did we help? How many veterans did we help? How many, whatever it is. And that's very important. Yes, because we don't want to come across that we're only helping certain people, or that there's something called redlining, where institutions don't want to go into certain areas. When institutions, financial institutions, are perceived to be maybe not as active in certain areas, they pool their monies and give it to a nonprofit. And that nonprofit makes a determination if you go to them, whether they should lend to you. And they're not going to lend to you just because you're the right color or the right flavor of the month or to be politically correct. You have to have your things in order, because that nonprofit is responsible for how it lent, that the credit made sense, that your bank, the credit is credit worthy, and that you're going into maybe an opportunity zone. So besides SBA, the state guarantee, city programs, the state also has a incentive program, which is very, very, not very well detailed in my opinion, to give people a perspective. But sometimes the rate that the nonprofit charges is a little steeper, but they're willing to go and lend in areas that maybe are perceived not getting enough attention. And
let me ask you something here. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the show that there are the different loans that are available for home and personal property if you're in a disaster area. And, of course, the EIDL, we know about that, and business physical disaster loans. Can someone apply directly to the SBA, or do they need to go through a banker or a lender such as yourself who's got experience with SBA loans? What is the process for that?
Sometimes you can submit your loan to the Small Business Development Center, but the Small Business Development Center is going to tell you that all the banks participate in all the programs, and that may or may not be the case. If a bank has too much of a concentration in certain industries, it may be told you have too much in the industry. You need to cut down in that industry and shift a little bit. Sometimes there's banks that don't want to lend, or there's banks that don't like doing ground-up construction because they've
what
had...
about the disaster loans? That's what I'm asking about right now. The disaster loans and
the PPP and disaster loans are being done differently, and you can submit directly your disaster loan and your PPP straight to the federal government, and they'll walk you through the process if you like. But it's easy for a lot of people just to go to the bank and get it done, or hire somebody like myself. I myself am not participating in assisting business owners because I would have to charge a nominal fee, and that would defeat the purpose of the help. So in my opinion, the best place to go is just make sure you have what the bank needs, and then they can input it with you. And then the system will automatically send you an alert whether you qualified or didn't. And just recently I submitted somebody, and he got rejected because he had reneged on an SBA loan a long time ago, and therefore the SBA rejected him. right?
That's not good. Well, if you are in an area, like let's say that you have been impacted by COVID, and this is either, or you've been in a disaster area, like the Northern California with the wildfires, and that impacted both you, your house, and maybe your business or not, you may not have had the income that you've had before. That's one of the reasons you've got the economic injury, right? So maybe you don't have a good credit score as well. How much do those factors, your income and your credit score, impact you on the SBA application?
On the PPP, the credit score is not that much of an issue. The issue is, have you reneged on a federal loan? If the answer is yes, the SBA is trying to determine how to overcome that. Right now, there's emails coming out from SBA on how to treat Schedule C sole proprietors, because a lot of people don't have an EIN. They use their social instead of an EIN for their sole proprietor business. So now that we've cleaned that up and redefined that those people are eligible for help, those people are going to start receiving assistance as well. Everything is a science. It's trial and error. We're submitting, and then some people are being excluded. Okay, why are they being excluded? So we analyze, we take a step back, and then we get direction from the SBA on how to overcome a risk. What do we do to make sure that this person is eligible for the assistance?
Do student loans count as the federal loans that you may or may not have reneged on?
Student loan is a federal loan. If you had a VA loan and reneged on that'll flag. Everything flags. And there's programs like LexisNexis and other programs that if there's questions and you kind of don't quite not so accurate on the information, and it turns out you did file for BK, there's certain things that are some places, some banks cannot lend to you because their criteria is a little more restrictive.
Okay. Now, I know that in addition to the work that you've done and the knowledge that you've got with SBA, you do loans for people who have commercial properties or buying them or refinancing them, and you are also a commercial real estate agent yourself. How do you help people who have businesses? And I know especially like the gas stations and gas station owners that you work with, because that's one of your niches. How can that combine with your knowledge of SBA to increase your business and help your clients?
What basically I'm doing right now with business owners is trying to figure out, are they in distress? There's a lot of people in certain industries that are not in distress. They might have been in the beginning of COVID, but some of them, gas station operators, are quite happy with their business. Obviously, their sales were impacted, the margins were impacted. But with some of those people, we've elected, there was a program through a bank that recalculated based on an EBITDA formula. There's tax credits and cost segregation that I'm recommending certain people to take advantage of, and meeting with a third-party vendor that isn't something I have very much knowledge about, but they need to do that in lieu of PPP. PPP is for people who were impacted by the COVID, and with the tax credits and cost segregation, I'm helping a business owner through the third-party vendor. They have 3 restaurants, 2 of which they own the real estate. And after reviewing insurance cost, credit card depreciation, looking at the equipment, depreciating that, the improvements over a 20-year period or more, we calculated that we can recapture at the federal level $800,000 in monies they overpaid. So it is not debt they're taking on. It is a recapturing of overpayment. And the question for the client is, are you sure it's not a loan? I said, no, it is not a loan. I don't know enough about the subject matter, but the third-party vendor was there and showed us what his questions were. And based on the numbers, and he has a total of 60 employees, the recapture amount is significant. So unfortunately, he doesn't have a financial advisor. He has a CPA. But now that the money's going to be recaptured, we need to bring in a financial advisor to properly structure him, have reserves for an emergency, have some monies also for COVID-related, get him out of some debt. And then the question is he expanding with that money to another restaurant? Does he buy maybe something other than restaurant, perhaps like a multifamily or a small strip center where he puts his restaurant and then has investment income, and we look for some additional passive income like solar or a cell phone tower on the site? How do we restructure him so he's not solely dependent? And then the man is telling us that in a 3-year period, his goal is to retire. So how does all that go down with $800,000? You know, so the goal is where is his team, right? When Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz is skipping, she's got Toto in her arms. Who is Toto in that person's life as a business owner? Is that the confidant? Is that a wife? And then who's skipping alongside of Dorothy? You know, we have the Scarecrow. Is the Scarecrow his lawyer? Is the other person an attorney? Is the other person a CPA? And then
or
the
a financial
advisor. Yes, who's the team? Because I will come in and out of his life periodically where he says, hey, I want to now buy something new. Who is on the team, right? Nobody's smart all by themselves. Everybody has to have a team. And sometimes if you're going to go in the ditch, somebody in the team is telling you, don't go that way, go this way. And you're, no, I want to go this way. Well, no, you got to let the advisors on the team direct you so you don't make pivotal mistakes.
That is so true. And as an advisor, let me ask you this, and I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit, because it's certainly in the commercial world, like you said, if somebody like that is coming up with almost $1 million, not just in tax credits, but in actual money, which is somewhat similar to my analysis where for $95, I guarantee I'll find at least $950 in your financial life or your money back. Obviously, it's a little bit different scale. What do you see in the coming months in the commercial real estate market? What are your predictions, or what are you already seeing when you're talking about multifamily, strip malls, triple net lease, single tenant buildings? Where do you see the strengths and weaknesses, and what might be happening in the next 6 months?
I see that there's going to be more drive-throughs, and we're going to continue to see the double drive-through concept. We're seeing certain places already had it, so they obviously had a vision of what's happening. We're seeing a lot of construction and multifamily, and we're seeing that a lot of people are starting to see that multi-generational families can't be living in the same household as a result of COVID. It is not, maybe it's a cultural thing that's very exciting, that everybody's kind of together. But at the same time, the younger people are going in and out. They're not as cautious. So they're bringing in the symptoms of the COVID into the home. So those people who have been quarantining, have been following, now are getting exposed. So little by little, we're going to start seeing that some people, and we're already seeing that some people are moving further away or out of state or doing remote work. So you don't need to have a lot of these office buildings and shopping centers. They really need to start becoming live and work, renewable, sustainable communities, something that I was hearing about back in the 90s from a gentleman, Mr. Bill Swank, Senior. He was talking about doing a project back then in the 900 million range, where everything was in the one area. And everything, you really didn't need a vehicle because, you live there, you work there, you exercise there, you go to grocery shopping, and people come into the area to, maybe vacation or come and visit. But you really don't need a lot of the transportation. So we just need to get cities to kind of change with the symptoms of the environment, what's happening in the economy. We need more industrial buildings, and not just the big buildings, but the smaller buildings, because we're seeing that a lot of people are looking at that they may not have a job to go back to. So being an entrepreneur is very crucial. Maybe smaller buildings, 2,000 to 8,000 square feet is what I'm being told they want in the desert here in Southern California. I was told by a builder that that's what he feels is lacking in that market. And I see a lot of growth out the Palmdale, Lancaster, Bakersfield, Tehachapi, all those areas that in the past you're like, no, that's just for farming. No, that's just for, something rural. I think a lot of people are starting to go up there, maybe Santa Clarita, Valencia. For a while, some of those industrial buildings were vacant, and that didn't make sense. I see more need for cold storage for various uses, whether it's food and agriculture, whether it's medicinal, whether it's green. A lot of people seem to be hung up on the cannabis. There's different pockets that are very friendly to cannabis. I have some clients in that sector, and then how do we support all these things? And where it's legal, it's safe, and that we really are proactive instead of reactive to changes in the economy. I think there's going to be a shortage of our basics, products, and services that relate to construction. So I'm working actively with some of my client base, and we're looking at how do we become providers or procurers of certain products and services, because if you're going to the Lowe's and the Home Depots, some of their shelves are sort of empty in certain things. So that's a sign when we all start doing construction, there's going to be a lot of it. How do we manage and control construction costs? Because if not, somebody could bid something right now, but if the product and service changes as a result of cost, then how does that impact the numbers, the lending, and what it's going to either rent or sell for? And it's got to
go back with the SBA on that.
Yeah, then you got to go back to the SBA, because SBA is there to take advantage for people to take advantage of leverage, to employ people. There's all these wonderful perks. And if you heard the other day I heard on AM 640 that there's going to be there's already a surplus of revenue in the state. So we might be seeing some of that money trickle back, but perhaps it needs to be reshifted to help other sectors. I don't know, but somebody needs to, or maybe when the recall of the governor takes place, that the right people, not just the same people, are helping change the vision. And also we need to see that our younger people are really contributors They certainly made a run of the stock market, about 30 days ago, and we saw
sure
what
did.
they are capable. And people who are in their 30s and younger, they have a different take because they've never experienced a downturn in the economy. So it's important to know how to assess risk. That's one of the things I treasure about my banking career, is that was one of the things that I had to put in my write-up, was explaining risk, where somebody is. Are they in the beginning of an industry, in the middle of an industry, or are they about ready to go and become an obsolete product or service, how to liquidate a company, all these things that you're exposed to. How does that all play out?
I'd love to have that as a conversation for another show, but we're out of time right now, Gladys. It's
Thank
been
you
wonderful
so much
talking
for
with you
having
again.
me.
And if somebody wants to get hold of Gladys or talk about the SBA, they can contact me at 626-460-1188. That's 626-460-1188. Again, 626-460-1188. I'll put you in touch with Gladys or any of my other experts. Thank you again so much, Gladys, for being on the show, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you again.
Okay.
All right.
You bet. And also, again, you can if you contact me if you're interested in that financial analysis for $95, where I guarantee in my little quick audit we'll find at least $950 for you, what we used to call couch money. Like we would find coins in the couch, maybe if your parents were laying down and you would go sneak, whatever fell out of their pockets. This is not something obviously falling out of your pocket, but it is something that's already also in your life and in your accounts, but you just may not know it. Or one of the things that is a possibility is that there are tax credits. Now, I'm going to talk to you just real quickly. The difference between a tax credit and a tax refund is that a tax credit comes off of what it is that you owe to the government. So on a dollar-for-dollar basis, let's say you owe $2,000 in your taxes, but you get a $1,500 tax credit. Well, now your tax liability has been reduced and you only owe $500. If you have a refund coming, that is something that is totally different, not necessarily based on a tax credit. That is money essentially that you have either overpaid in the course of the year and you're getting it back once you file your taxes, or there might be some kind of refund or rebate available to you. And we asked 11 experts, would you rather get a tax refund or owe money? So this is another thing that you should be thinking about as you're starting to put together information for your taxes, which Tax Tuesday is April 15th, which is just over 30 days from now, so keep that in mind. The experts basically said that they would rather owe money rather than get a tax refund. And the reason for that is you need to keep more money in your pocket and not let the government have it. It sounds like a great idea to have all these taxes and have a tax refund coming. People think that it's free money and that you're going to be able to buy a television or a car, have a down payment or something for that, but you're not. Essentially, that is your money and you have loaned it to the government interest-free for as long as you've been putting the money in. So we'll be talking about that and some tax credits next week and on another show. And also, I'm very pleased to say that Black Women's Wall Street will be launching their show in June. Stay tuned for more information about that in the Julie Talks Money family of money. Thank you again for listening so much. And there'll be a replay you can watch on YouTube. And again, connect with me on Instagram or on YouTube. Check with my Facebook page, Julie Phelan, Julie Talks Money, also a YouTube channel. And in the meantime, have a great and prosperous week and stay healthy. Bye-bye.